And quickly, which one of the 9 cats are you today? Oh, Owen, you can't leave me. Owen, which one of the 9 cats?
I'm not leaving you. I'm staying here.
Okay,
So,
I'm just checking.
okay. So I would go with, at the minute, I'm probably number 6 because I'm very excited. Probably generally, I would go number 5 without the beer. Probably a glass of Fanta beside me.
How are you feeling last night? Which one were you last night?
So last night I was definitely number 2 without a doubt. I didn't know where I was. Definitely no, and then number 7 this morning when I woke up because I didn't really sleep much last night preparing for this. So
nice. Well, appreciate you sharing that. Maybe get everyone to put in the chat which one of the cats they are. That would be awesome. Thank you.
yeah. So folks, what number are you? So as you look at the cats, what number are you right now? So enter into the chat.
Definitely. Which one's getting the majority at the moment? Owen, 6 is really popular. I thought you would be 2 last night, and you'll probably be 3 when this finishes, and probably I'm going for number 9 later. I imagine you might have a couple of spirits to help you.
I might have 1 or 2 after this. All right, watching the Ireland France game.
Yeah, look, and look, thanks for having me, and appreciate people sharing that. But like checking in with people is critical. So we're still in the midst of a global pandemic, although over here in England we're denying that. I'm going to Dubai today, and like I'm pretty stressed about traveling. If I'm honest, I would normally be a 3, but I'm definitely like about an 8 at the moment. Whilst just realising I had to fill out another form before I fly. You touched on me teaching, and I just want to connect it up with some stuff I've heard from Martin and Louise and Emma, which I've really enjoyed. Like, you need to listen to the players. I spent 2 years as a teacher, and it's pretty tough being a kid. I've got two kids, a 16-year-old and an 11-year-old, and it's tough. What else did I write? Yeah, my end point, and probably tied in with loads of what Louise and Emma said, is skillful, adaptable players. In order to achieve that, you need skillful coaches, but you also need coaches who are looking after themselves. So if you turn up not at your best, then you're probably doing a disservice to yourself and the kids. Other stuff that I wrote while Louise and Emma were talking, we did a world's best project. We spoke to all the best players in the world. They'd all played multiple positions. They'd all played in multiple. I would heartily encourage kids to think like coaches, because if we were to all think back, if we did play, if we knew back then what we know now as coaches, I would have been a significantly better player, and a bit more than a journeyman. I loved what they're talking about. Again, context with what you measure. I would call it like what you attend to. There's a thing called fat boy football where they weigh the players before they play and they weigh them after. That's what's important. People are going there to lose weight. You might want to measure how many times people smile when they're under pressure and they get back in the moment. There's loads of stuff that we currently don't measure because there's traditions around so many things, would be my view. The other stuff I wrote down from Martin, the how of coaching is like critical. I'm probably going to touch on that quite a lot. Be knowledgeable versus effective. You don't coach on a piece of paper, you've got to go out and practice it. And I love what Martin said about what coaching is, because it's my first slide. So really quickly, hopefully, this is probably my best thinking at the moment around what I think coaching is. And I'm sure it'll change. I'd be pretty disappointed if it didn't. We have no opportunity like now to get better. So people are sharing more than ever. I think sport is like this incredible thing, and it has this opportunity to do stuff nothing else does. So go to Kaalisha every year. It's a township just outside South Africa. It probably resets me to understand that unless enjoyment's your number one thing, like give me a good reason why it isn't. I don't know a single good reason. And of course, what Louise and Emma said and Martin said is true. Like enjoyment can be like striving and pushing yourself and achieving. And of course, that's really important. I also would concur with what Louise and Emma said about levels. So levels is a really good way to think about your coaching. What's the next level of this game? What's the next level of this practice? End of this session, we finished on level 6. What does level 7 look like for the next session? Or do we want to go back and master level 5? Look, I think you've got to understand what the purpose of sport is. And then again, it just creates this family and belonging, which I've already heard spoken about by Martin, and family is the most important thing to me. I think our job is to set problems, I think longitudinally. So I am concerned whether or not players see me in 5-10 years and they still give me a hug. This was a girl I taught at school, and that was the hardest kid I taught. And 3 years later, she sent me a message and I could sleep at night. There's often a like wants and needs kind of challenge going on. And probably, as you're just saying then, and Owen, I would actually recommend pizza parties for the grown-ups as well as the kids. I think that would be, they would be much more likely to share what did they see. But scanning is the most important thing for coaches and players. So noticing skills are critical. So we should be asking a lot like, what are you looking for? What did you see? When you made that decision, what helped you? Then, like, I want to understand like how people can be at their best and what makes them wobble. And I need to put that into training, and we need to talk about it. And I'll reference that in a bit. I'm playing around with assassins at the moment. And I think our job as coaches is to work out how to get the best out of players. It took me 10 years to get the best out of Matt Turner, and that's way too long. It's way too long. I would be much quicker now. I think we're a product of our kind of biographies. I played professional sport. I hated it. They just try to tell you what to do. I speak to lots of current internationals and players who think similarly. It's not all as good as it looks on the outside. And then everyone's at a different bus stop. So exactly what the ladies were talking about, like, what's the appropriate challenge for that person? And maybe even think about like, what could they control? Because you can't necessarily control how many times you get the ball, but you can control how many times you get into a really good position to get the ball. So people at different bus stops think our job is to find out where they are. Simple questions. What one thing would help me coach you better? And then last thing really is psychology is everywhere. So I've heard lots of references to it. I was at an England session with Johnny Wilkins, and he said, I think I'm about 1.3% of the way there to understanding psychology, Rusty. And I thought, oh my days, like I've got a long way to go. But it's everywhere. It's in every kick you do, every pass you do, every time you walk in a room. Do you feel like you belong? Do you feel like you trust people? What do other people think of me? So we got to be really mindful of that as coaches, and probably become more psychologically informed. So I guess just a signpost today, really, like I'm going to talk about options. Like I think the more options you have, the better chance you have of making good decisions. So I'm just going to share some of my stuff. It is my stuff. It's kind of my story. It's my context. This really helped me. So chunking up to these are the skills that we are developing in young players. So creativity to me is solutions to problems. And Louise and Emma spoke about problem solving. Awareness is like awareness of yourself, awareness of others, scanning, whatever people want to call it. What are my strengths? What am I working on? What makes me wobble? Resilience about dealing with pressure. And as the lady said, like it's individual, it's contextual. And then decision making and self-organizing. This really helped me chunk up coaching. So this is the stuff I'm focusing on. Am I giving people opportunities to do this? Am I missing opportunities? Lots of our match day behaviors are preventing, and just looking in the chat box and people wrote, there's lots of stuff here. Creativity, like people are worried about the Monday morning review, decision making, pass, kick, run. So I'm always thinking back, I'm always chunking back to this because it's currently a postcode lottery for players. And I say that as a father of two. This is Marcus Smith at 14. He's the most skillful player, probably in the Premiership in England at the moment, and couldn't get in his county team at under 16. Had to get picked by John Fletcher to go up to the north and play for them so he could then play in the Wellington Festival and then get selected for England. It is a postcode lottery. So well done for trying to get better at coaching, because I wouldn't want it to be a postcode lottery for the kids. And let's just start with this. And again, like you don't need to put in the chat box, but like maybe think about what the answer is. And this is a really simple task, like hammering a nail in or molding some metal. And the answer is they become less consistent. So teaching people one way to kick or one way to pass is not that helpful. At the end of it, I have skillful, adaptable players. In rugby union, there are thousands of ways to pass. Literally, like watch a game, they'd very rarely be the same. And we spend a lot of time like focusing on one way of passing and telling people you have to do this and you have to do that. And that's just not the case. And again, in our sport, there's a big issue at the moment around concussion because we don't have skillful defenders. People are not skillful. They are not thinking like, how can I get close? How can I get my head in a safe place? They're not thinking like the blacksmith outcome. What is the outcome? Head in a safe place, feet close, so I can manipulate the person that I'm tackling. So, and just to signpost again some stuff today, like I'm going to probably spend a lot of time in the green, and then I guess it's up to you to go, what would work in my world? I'm going to kind of talk through some options and some ideas. The All Blacks in rugby talk about serious fun. I think, again, like we're a little bit too serious with the kids. Quite frankly, I'm only speaking from my experiences, so apologies, but match days are I won't swear, but match days, rugby's on a Sunday are a disgrace, quite frankly. Referees are abused. I had to go to get a mum off the pitch the other day because she was abusing a player. That is ridiculous, quite frankly. I'm probably a related world. I've never played GAA, I've never coached it, but I've worked with lots of environments around coaching, and I'm kind of going to take away the tech tack because I don't know the tech tack, but I'm definitely going to speak about like stuff that might be helpful. And then again, let's think like, can we break the rules? Because there would be lots of rules around things. You would probably, if you think about stuff you do at work, you would probably have to write down a list of 4 or 5 rules or procedures that are pointless, traditions, unhelpful. I could really recommend a book by Gary Klein called Streetlights and Shadows, and I'm pretty excited that he's going to be on the podcast soon, where he talks a lot about this. And he talks about procedure is the opposite of skill. And I fully agree with that statement. So just a signpost. And you, of course, have options around how you engage in this. And the best coaches I know, they would be really interactive. So this is Ada Mcnulty. He's currently coaching the Ireland Women's Sevens. They just smashed it in the last tournament. He's in my top 5 most skillful, adaptable coaches. Most people I work with would have a development plan. It would be really individual. They wouldn't all look like this. And he'd have real intention around the stuff he's getting better at. Again, he would have lots of options, but he's definitely going, this is the stuff that's mission critical for me. Because he's top right. So again, I'm just doing a bit of signposting, but I find this really helpful. Working for yourself is really good, Owen, because you generally only get people with high will, and they might be low skill, but they really, really, really want to get better. And I guess in coach development, this bottom left is often the challenge. So if you've got the person down here in your club, low skill, kids are having a terrible time, low will to get better, then that's very problematic. And so I just kind of wanted to see, and we'll see, like if you're high skill or if you're at least high will, might want to think about this throughout the presentation. So 3 things I'm going to kind of find a bit more about or steal. 2 experiments I'll try, and I use the word experiment deliberately because it can go wrong. Sometimes the experiment, sometimes the chemistry lab does blow down. And 1 person I need to connect with on this, and you might then want to WhatsApp that person. It's much more likely you'll do something about it if you do. But then again, that's your choice as to where you sit on here. It's not up to me. So let's break a couple of rules. Like I start with environment. That's Brighton College before they win the St. Joseph's Festival, Marcus Smith's in the changing room there. That's the best environment for them before a match. Again, there's loads of traditions that we think as adults, and you might say, well, Rusty, that's not. That's just kids, isn't it? But of course, Samoa, when they were successful in the World Series. Feel free to dance along, Owen.
I am Rusty.
Nice.
Everybody's glad that I have my video off.
Yeah. And again, like I start with environment. It is the most important thing. How quickly can people belong? How quickly can people be themselves? And maybe reflect as grown-ups when you have and when you haven't belonged, because there will be kids that you will need to be doing more work with to help them belong. And often using the other kids to help that process is vital. I don't say often, I think almost always. So I would start with environment. And again, just think about how much clarity you have around that. So I really like this. This is a hockey club in England. This is what you'll see. Share this with the parents, share this with the kids, share this with the coaches. There is clarity. The rugby club I was at on Sunday morning, there is no clarity. There are people that think it is okay to shout at referees. There is a mother that thinks it's okay to abuse a 16-year-old lad. There is no clarity. And again, I go back to it. This is my clarity is that that I would want to be like people that go, you really cared for me, Rusty. You really love me and you helped me. And that's probably what I get off on, quite frankly. And by love and care, I don't mean like pink and fluffy, because I love and care for my own kids, but that doesn't mean that we have high standards and we want to help them get better. Cool. Right. Coaching, probably what everyone wants to listen to me talk about now. I think of it in three areas, and then I'm going to go into some of the challenges. And maybe just think about if you like, so you have options. So the first option you have is around practice design. So you control this. You can control, where do I put the cones? What do I do? Do I let them do free play? Do I do block practice? Do I put them in a line? Do I include any decision-making in that? Do I score it? You have a small-sided game, so more touches, feels more like the game. Might not include some of the longer kicks, or, for example, in football, like offside. Or you could play the game, which is like the game. Lots of the same tactical stuff as the game, might feel like the game, but like people get to spend a lot more time off the ball and don't get as many touches. And of course, you get to practice off the ball skills, which in most invasion sports is the vast majority of the game. So maybe have a reflection now while you are on how much off the ball coaching you are currently doing. I would think if you've got more than one coach, you should have at least one off the ball coach. Tactical warfare, and then some of the video game design stuff. So James G's work, Amy Price's work, I would recommend that stuff. There is a reason those kids are looking down at those phones and they're playing on computer games. It's because they have well-designed learning principles around them. Levels is a really good learning principle. So I'll kind of let people go off and explore that if they want. Tactical warfare for me is, I've probably learned that if you're telling everyone everything, it's probably suboptimal. So telling one team you're going to play a high press is like telling the other team the answer, isn't it? And if you go back to what I think coaching is, I think it's problem setting. So I should probably tell one team. So as an example, did a hockey session where tell one team, if you get the ball back 15 times in the opposition half and you prevent their best player, who do you think it is? To less than, how many touches do you think you can prevent them to less than? 5? Okay, cool. So if you can get the ball back 15 times in their half and that player touches the ball less than 5 times, then you'll win the game despite the score. I'm not that fussed about the score. It's a really blunt instrument. And then halfway through the game, we allow the other team to have a huddle, and then that team who knows stuff to watch. That for me is tactical warfare. I would rarely tell everyone everything. So maybe just have a reflection. So you control this. Which one do I use the most and why? Which one do I use the least and why? And it might be because you don't know that much about it, or I feel more comfortable doing this, or this is the needs of my players, and maybe consider like what would be the needs of your players. Owen, I'm going to ask you, just because like there's a lot of people online. What are you thinking when I share this slide?
So there's a couple of things that jump out, and again, as you talked about earlier on, Rusty, this is your way, and so my way would definitely be the free play if it was to pick one. And again, you talked about earlier on about a coach when I was younger, and in particular, there's one former teacher, and he's now chairman of the Fermanagh County Board, and the environment that he created in terms of letting us be ourselves, which probably went against some of his rules most of the time. We weren't rule breakers per se, we were kind of disruptors. But whenever it came to the serious work of learning, and he was a biology teacher, but he was involved in football as well, Gaelic football, we felt closer to him, closer to the subject, just because he let us be ourselves. And in terms of my own research, my own coaching, the play aspect is massive for me anyway.
Nice, cool. And again, like we can scaffold some of that, can't we, with some games and getting the players. Cool. So I just want to go, so we control this and we control our behavior. Two things we control. So we can, and again, it's been spoken about, but I'm going to try and bring it to life in a second, where we stand, who we speak to, like, are we giving positive feedback? Are we giving negative feedback? And again, we could talk about the nuances of these words. Are we doing hustle? Come on, let's go. I actually don't think that's our job. I think our job might be to set 3 or 4 people a secret mission to be in charge of hustle and then ask them how we can help them with that. Are we conferring with our assistant coaches? This was really helpful. This led to me using much more names for games. So this is Jimmy Ponton, Newcastle Falcons and England 20s ex-coach. And think about how much time you spend explaining stuff versus we're going to play the Dublin game. What level do you want to start on? So again, just being really aware of what's my kind of stuff I'm doing around here and why. What are my behaviours here and why? And really, like lots of coaches just won't be that aware of where am I standing, who am I speaking to. There'll be some traditions. So in hockey, you stand as an umpire on an edge. In football, you often stand as a feeder, which means you're not that good at looking off the ball. And then I try to put down, and I guess like these are probably some of the coaching skills that you might see in this. And again, you might want to reflect on this and go, okay, I do lots of this, or I do less of this. I wonder why that is, or I wonder if I can explore that. And these are probably the top 16 kind of coaching skills I feel like I would use a lot. Owen, if you could pick 2 that you think you're smashing, what are they? And if you could pick one that's become an interview, hasn't it? If you could pick one that you go, actually, I would love to get better at that. Okay.
So 2 that I think I am quite good at, need to do better always, again, but I would be very comfortable in, and one of them is one that I'm going to be presenting next week at the National GAA conference. So questioning and setting challenges, if I was to pick 2 that I'm good at. In terms of one that is a constant back in my head, knocking at my brain saying, Owen, do better. It would be, that's a good one. I would say feedback. Quite good at giving feedback, but again, something that I'm constantly working on, mainly because of my voice, similar to yourself, Rusty. Your voice is something that kind of always comes about. Oh, are you hoarse all the time? Did you lose your voice? No, same as me and Rusty. This is how we speak all the time. So feedback will be one, especially when the players are close to me. It normally goes a lot better, but similar to yourself, probably. When it's further away, you need to think more about what your feedback's going to be, project your voice, and that would come in. Feedback would definitely be one that I'm always constantly aware of.
Nice. Appreciate that love for people with similar voices. And people are saying, oh, you've been shouting at the kids all morning. I'm thinking, I've definitely not been shouting at them. And again, like I love the scoring systems. I know they were spoken about by Louise and Emma. I love replays. Again, do you want to have another go at it? Like often when we're shouting unlucky, I think we mean replay. And again, replay can be used to stretch and support. And do they choose the replay or do you choose the replay? I would have replays in actual matches, but at that point, the parents would lose their shit, quite frankly. Which other ones am I? I would always have a freeze over a huddle, like stand where you are, like cool, close your eyes. What have you seen? Where's the best space? Feedback, yeah, I'm same as you, like I'm exploring it. I'm definitely like asking permission more than ever. Do you mind if I share something with you? Would you like a challenge? I asked a kid the other day. No. Okay. And 5 minutes later, would you like a challenge? No. Oh, why's that? Oh, because my dad's here. So.
Yeah, sorry, Rusty, just to come in, I think that's a really important point that you're asking them, because as coaches, and it happened to me first and then done a couple of videos, and I went over quietly and asked them, would you be able to show the skill in front of everybody? And sometimes they'll say no, rather than just asking them straight away in front of everybody and then the freeze. So that element of asking them beforehand, again, making sure they're comfortable, making sure that that they feel that they belong. And then when they realize that you're doing it for a good reason, probably the next time you won't have to ask them, because they'll want to show everybody what they're doing. So I think that's a really, really good point that you brought up there.
Yeah, look, and if anyone wants to reach out and get some explanation around more of these stuff, I've created a video for all of them. I'm happy to share my Google Drive with them on. 2 stories from the other day. I coached some 15-year-old girls, and I said, "Oh, if you could share one thing with me that would help me coach you better, what would it be?" And one girl said, "Rusty, lots of people give me feedback on my own, but I actually prefer it in the group, because then people either know what I'm good at or what I'm working on." I thought that was pretty cool. That was then surpassed by the girl who said, "Rusty, you're going to need to be really patient with me. I'm not as skillful as everyone else. And so in order for me to belong," and she used the word belong, "then you're going to have to be really patient with me and give me chances for some stuff to go wrong." I was like, whoa, wowee. But of course they know that. They're not stupid. Like, they know themselves. And then probably the last thing is co-coaching. So, like, that's how I think about coaching. So I just kind of go, look, it's practice design. It's like the base of the cake. If you get it wrong, if it's boring or it's not, like, if it's boring, and like I was at Hartley the other day, then Anna just lies on the floor. So we just played, like, if Anna lies on the floor, it means your session is boring. Maybe you give the kids some cards with boring on and they're allowed to use it, like, to give you feedback. It's your behaviors, and then it's co-coaching. How are we going to work together? And I'll just show this clip to demo, like, where I think this should be.
Somebody, you can have a scrum there if you want. You want a scrum? They're really keep up on
So that was quite an important moment there. So this is Tomasi and Clarkey, New Zealand Sevens. For Tomasi to, like, hierarchy is quite a big thing for him to stop Clarkey and then have a conversation. Then Clarkey to walk away, but then Tomasi to call him back. It's quite a big thing.
So, middle rack, and you didn't find the edge, you just turn it over.
Yeah, well, yeah, big constraint for us. You have 2 racks inside the back end. Yeah.
And so, excuse the language, but they are, like, adapting the session during the session. They're working effectively as co-coaches. A friend I know has just started working in football, that's soccer, and he said, in soccer, they co-coach, one person coaches, and the other person does keepy uppies on the side of the pitch. Again, are you maximizing your coaching resource to help the players? And there is an infinite number of co-coaching options. You could have attack and defense, on the ball, off the ball, head of stretch, head of supporting the players who need the most support, head of high fives, whatever you want it to be. And of course, the players could also be co-coaches. So I did a session in Boston, and one of the kids said, "Rusty, can I be a co-coach?" He was 9 years old. And I said, "Yeah, as long as you don't tell everyone what it is." And so he was head of happiness. Give people a high five when they do stuff well, and then stretch them. So set them a challenge with them. 9 years old. After 20 minutes of coaching, there's me thinking I've smashed it. I asked everyone to point to the person who's had the best interaction with them in the last 20 minutes. And practically everyone was pointing at a 9-year-old boy. And of course, he'd self-selected himself because he was the most skillful player there, but also for the most skillful player to support the other players, to catch them doing stuff well and then stretch them is powerful stuff. And again, like maybe use this. And again, I'm just trying to create thinking tools for people. I think we should have more interactions that are them to you rather than you to them. So how many of your interactions that are support or stretch ones are them to you versus you to them? I think that, again, like have a think about like where you are. Oh, sorry, I wrote some stuff. Where you are on here. So where's your strength? I'm good at stretching teams. Or I'm good at supporting individuals. What are you working on? Who is the best? Like, again, you might be going, actually, Owen, where are you on this? So you good at stretch or support teams or individuals? If you have to go, here's my super strength. And which is the one you're thinking, actually, I need the most support with?
So in terms of my strength, it would be supporting the individual, and definitely stretching the team would be one I need to work on. And I like that the way. What do you think they need? That needs and wants balance, and what they want, giving them what they want, but then making sure that you're aware of what they need in terms of improve, but also that they're aware of what they need as well.
Yeah, they definitely need to be aware. And again, I shared this with some cricket coaches the other day, and their goal was to have an entire session with them to you interactions, and it was easy. Elliot at the start just said, "Look, here's the games, 3 games. If you need help or if you want feedback, come and find me or one of the coaches or one of your teammates." But then about 10 minutes in, he said, "Oh, just so you know, Johnny, Steve, I've noticed some stuff about you. If you want to come and find me, I'm happy to share it. I think it'll help." And one of them came straight away and one of them came 20 minutes later. But that's a different interaction. The picture I didn't talk about actually on my coaching slide is, I think coaching is like them opening the front door, not me breaking in around the back. And the beauty of working for yourself is the front door is often open, or at the very least, the house is on fire. Again, I'm not going to share this. I've got a video of people share, but this is probably me trying to go, this is how I think about coaching in my mind. So there's loads of stuff around. Where will I be standing and why? What coaching skills do I think I'll use? What questions will be in my head? I've created a video that talks about this. It's way too much. If I had a co-coach with me, which I didn't, the reason I had to plan this session was because my co-coach bailed out 2 minutes beforehand. I would have a skills master. I would have had an off the ball, and I would have a goalkeeper skills zone because I'm not that good at coaching goalkeepers. And this is how I now give feedback to coaches. So again, I'm breaking the rules. I work with international coaches and I draw pictures for them. Right, let's get into it. So we designed some cards, and I'm just going to go through them, and they're really to nudge you and to kind of get you thinking differently. There they are. Oh, man, Owen, you're on fire. Just a couple of examples. So this is before training. So I try to go, before training, what's the stuff I would do? This was at Worcestershire Cricket, the players designing the session with the parents, with the coaches. Think of the benefit of that. We find out what the players want. It might not be what they need, but at least we know. And we create some cards here to scaffold those conversations. They actually design the coaches. This is how we want the co-coaches to work. This is Aidan Mcnulty at Ulster. This is the players. So coaches have got pictures on the whiteboard. The players then connect it with the coach, or the players they want to sport with, and they set each other challenges. A little bit like Louise and Emma were talking about earlier. Cool. How good's that? You go back to the board. You might go, do you know what? Like, that's a bit mild. Should we set a mild, medium, and spicy one for you? Share your IDP with the players. How often do you tell the players what you're working on so they can give you feedback? We used to play, and it's not on here actually, the pineapple game, where we would share with all the England players the stuff we're working on, and they just call us out when we're doing stuff well or less well. And then another one, so I put this before because I'm playing around with the assassin. So the assassins, or the assassins, plurals, jobs are to try and mentally disrupt the team in training. And we might also prime 2 or 3 people who are like a force for good, and their job is to kind of keep everyone on track. But how are we putting the mental skills into training? Again, we should rarely be telling everyone everything, in my opinion. If we want to create skillful, adaptable players, which is my endpoint, then we need to be sharing information with different people. And on an individual level, think about it like this. So if I wanted to coach Owen to be better at interceptions, if I told Owen, if I said to Owen, how many interceptions do you reckon you can get today? And if you said 3, If I then told everyone, it's really hard for Owen. However, if Owen got 2 and then I told everyone, we've leveled it. So he's got his 2, he's found it quite easy. And then we go, right, next person to throw an interception to Owen is going to sing a song with him at the end. Or sing a song, not with him, but with the coaches probably. So the cards are really meant to disrupt. And I think there's lots of stuff we could be doing before training. Even this could be players have options of 2 warm-ups. Which one do you want to go and do? Like choice is like high motivation. And I'm not saying, what time do you want to go to bed, kids? I'm saying, do you want to go to bed now or in half an hour? I can't see how I can operate a coaching session without a whiteboard, quite frankly, especially with a large number of kids. If we want them to all have, and we feel like they should have an individual, some individual stuff within a team session. I was lots of ones here that I was thinking about while everyone was talking, and I was trying to imagine a GAA session, but start all the games with scenarios. Why wouldn't you? Like, decision-making needs score, it needs time. So if you're 1 goal up and there's 30 seconds left versus 1 goal down, then you make different decisions. End the session with something that doesn't go well, let's finish on a good one. So again, we try to create stuff that would break some traditions and coach the entire session through games. I would coach most of my sessions through games, quite frankly. Passing needs context. You need to know when to pass, why to pass, what to do before you pass, what to do after you pass. But again, we just need to find the right level. It might be 5 on 2. It might be 5 on 3. It might be 6 on 1. We've got to work out the right level. Just going to talk about this. This probably ties in with what you were speaking about there, Owen. Explore 4 different ways to give feedback. So this is some stuff some coaches have done. One was cricket coach. He drew a cross on this lad's finger, and his goal was to get this off because this was the part of his hand that left the ball last when he spun it. Another coach did this and said, actually, we got 5 types of leaders in our team. At the end of the session, we're going to pick the two best medics, the 2 best warriors. That's a great way of giving feedback, isn't it? It's peer-to-peer. It's way more powerful than coach to player. Only coach off the ball. Again, next session you coach, try and not look at the ball. If you get beyond 10 seconds, then you can then get in touch with Martin. He'll give you a free ticket to the conference. And then this one again, players coming to coaches. Have we created enough problems on the right session so players come to us? And have we created the right environment? Because if they don't come to you, then that's problematic. And again, here's some England players setting up some stuff, setting some challenges before the training session for each other. So this is actually a really competitive session. So players are at this point setting challenges for each other. All of this is options. You can set your own challenges. The coach can set them. You could peer-to-peer. You could collaborate on them. You could compete on them. It's all options. And then I've done after training. So again, what a brilliant reflection tool this is. What was your most impactful moment with a player? How do you know? Well, ask 3 or 4 players at the end of each training session. What was helpful today? And the reason I put this on is because this, and I didn't talk about it, but this is a target top for best players. So this would be a really good way to kind of stretch our best players. Whenever I speak to players that I've coached, they talk about this, about the theming and the storytelling. And they talk about this type of stuff, the individual coaching. So these have been really impactful moments. But again, I wish I was more aware of that. Because this is the England coaches practicing their half-time, which they then go and practice on the pitch and mic themselves. Again, I think it's useful to have a framework. This is my favourite card out of all of our cards, really. To have a framework for reflection with the coaches, and of course you can create your own. And sorry, this was the other most impactful moment. It's Johnny Wilkinson, that's Marcus, Cam Redpath, peer-to-peer stuff, especially with legends, really helpful. And then this is so we've got cards for before, during, after, and then we've got the game, which I've kind of heard referenced before. The reason I put Jody Paul on is because he was my biggest challenge, really, in a match day situation. So I've probably been working with Jodie for about 3 months, and it was definitely trying to work out how to approach this subject. So in the end, I basically gave him a selection of cards and got him to pick 2. He picked these 2. They were all black cards. They were all coaching the game cards because that's what he needed help with. Can narrow the cards down. His choice, he then shared it with 60 coaches, much more likely to do it. And then we did this. So this was our day. We the day before they beat Ireland 4-0. The day he was less vocal on the sideline, they lost 1-0. And I debated driving home from Lilleshall with my tail between my legs. And about 3 hours later, he came and found me, thank God, and just said, right, we need to do something about my match day, don't we? Players are completely reliant upon me, my energy. So we started doing that. But this was some of the stuff. So keep a record of his body language. He actually just like dropped back and didn't do anything. And like the players were a bit shocked, really. Again, like, have you asked your players what they want or need from your match day? And then we did this. So we actually videoed the players after he'd spoken to them. So this is another player. After he'd spoken to them at half-time or in like the quarter-time breaks and asked them what they could remember. And they could hardly remember anything. So it's good feedback for him. So we designed some cards around the match day as well. And this probably ties in with what Louise and Emma were talking about. Match days, I wouldn't score goals or tries. I would score the stuff we've been practicing on. Otherwise, why are we practicing it? So this is us playing against Scotland. I would have no idea of the score in the game. But I know this was the stuff we were working on in attack and we've been doing in training. And that's what we're going to measure in the game, because what else would we measure? And then again, match days give real good opportunities, don't they? So this is one of the young lads kicking at half-time. We had Max Malins kicking at half-time in England-France international rugby game at Twickenham, just to kind of help him with kicking goals in front of 80,000 people. And these girls were they liked my mind. So this is England 18s girls. We went to European Sevens and they just like sang and danced and they were ridiculous, like the whole time. And like, it's just not like tradition, is it? Especially in the men's side of the game, but that's what they wanted to do. And like, they were awesome. And I would definitely encourage anyone to be coaching. Like I would encourage everyone to coach multiple environments, different sports at different ages, boys, girls, able-bodied, disability, like the whole everything. The more challenging, the better. Like that's it's going to make you more skillful. And then we've done some stuff around meetings. So in our world, players would lead meetings. This is Subbuteo board. Like we're playing around with some stuff. This is the players leading a session. This is a line-out session with condiments. It's like back in the old days with the bar. Again, think about what you signal by holding a meeting in the boardroom. I think we all know what's about to happen in the boardroom versus should we go and have a pizza and watch it? And again, I put this picture up because this lad is like a hero, really. His mum was dying of cancer during one of our campaigns. He was in every single camp, like, and because he felt like he belonged, and that's really like why I coach. But also, he said, I love it. He said, "Oh, Rusty, like, can we design some challenge cards for you coaches, please?" Like, how good's that? Like, Scotty, you're like a hero. And I can remember reading his card that he gave for me and thinking, wow, well, you're a bit, oh, yeah, actually, you're right. So creating opportunities, players challenge you. How many times you deliberately say stuff wrong? It'd be a good measure of your culture. If people go, hang on a second, Rusty, I'm not sure that's right, then I think that's cool. If they let it pass, then I think you're in trouble, quite frankly. Cool. Owen, are you there?
I am, Rusty, yeah.
Cool. Do you want to pick 2 people to sing karaoke? So any 2 people you want. Someone who you think would be like Elton John and someone who you think would be like Kiki D.
So I'm going to put Laura on the spot here. So I'm going to pick me as Elton John and Laura.
Elton John. Laura, you're going to put your camera on, please?
Good man, Rusty.
Can you see me
Laura,
there?
how's your singing? How's your singing,
fantastic.
Laura?
Fantastic. It's very good now.
Oh, nice.
Not really.
Would you be nervous about singing?
Yeah.
Cool, awesome. Well, you're not going to sing, so don't panic. However, like the reality of lots of this stuff is, like even this, like players being in charge of meetings, players challenging you, you are going to feel a little bit nervous, not shitting yourself, Laura, apologies for the French, but like you got to be brave. So I go back to the start. Aidan Mcnulty is one of the bravest coaches I know. So I watched the girls, they lost in the last play to Australia in the final. And one of the girls spoke about, we had our superpowers today. We all had superpowers. And Aidan, in the morning, he'd said, just so you know, when you pull on the green jersey today, it's going to give you superpowers. Go and find the 3 other girls and tell them what superpowers it gives them. Like, there's so much in that, like about belonging and recognizing other people's strengths and peer-to-peer stuff. And like, and again, the echo is they spoke about it after the match. We had our superpowers today. Like, but it's quite brave to do some of that stuff because there's so much tradition in our sport. So I guess my shout out to anyone is, and again, I put like, we have our cards on the site there, the coach challenge cards. There's a 15% discount. So if anyone wanted to feel like a salesman, but you will have to be brave to go and actually go and like steal some stuff or find out about some more stuff or actually try a couple of experiments. Trust me, you'll definitely won't regret it. And then maybe think about who's that one person I want to go and connect with. And it might be me, but hopefully it's not everyone connecting with me. I would take it anyway. But I'll happy to share, like, as I said, I got a Google Drive with some of the coaching skills explained on that might be helpful. I think I've stuck to time.
Indeed,
I tried to create a bit of time in case you had any questions.
You have 5 seconds left. 3, 2, 1. I'm going to send you a picture of literally the timestamp that I have beside me here. So, class, Rusty, if you want to unshare your screen there.
Yeah, I'll unshare.
So, folks, just while Rusty is unsharing the screen, something that I'm going to add into the email to you all with the videos is I will be sending the link to the Magic Academy where you will get an opportunity to see Rusty's and Fletcher's cards. There'll be a link to Burn Performance, to Ulearnby, for our presenter later on, Jared Jones. I coach kids, obviously involved in it myself, and Barnaby will be discussing that as well as his research after lunch. And then in terms of Martin, the GAA Learning website and a couple other links for being a Dublin GAA conference. Obviously, we have to send you all of our stuff, but you can see all of our stuff here, the website, and then all of our social media, that if you're on social media, you will get a lot of, in terms of our upcoming workshops, our webinar series that are for a friend of myself and Rusty's, Richard Cheatham, present that in the first one. So you get links to all those as well, folks. So Rusty, absolutely top class. Knew that was going to happen in terms of putting me on the spot, but you do it, and Laura, of course. You do it in such a way that, again, because I know you, I knew you were going to do that. But if I knew that if it was the first time we had met, I knew you wouldn't have done that. So again, it's around that environment of getting to know.
Mate, I think you've been kind to me. I might have done it.
Well, you might have. So I'm going to start off with Laura. So if you want to ask the first question, Laura.
Yes. So Peter asks, what is the best way to deal with egos within the group?
So I don't know the answer because I don't know your context and like how the group works, but I just saw that question, and I always think about everything like options. So if your only option is when someone does something wrong, you make them do press-ups, and that's a really blunt instrument. Like press-ups, well, it wouldn't happen. I would never, ever do it. So that's the reality for me. So it would be like at the very bottom, down there with like shouting and shaming and all of that stuff. I would never, ever do it because it's just not helpful. It doesn't help belonging. It doesn't help confidence. It doesn't actually make anyone more skillful. So I started writing down what would I be thinking about that. And I do think like the coaches of the future can be the people that can notice and understand energy and group dynamics and how stuff works. I would recommend Owen Eastwood's book, Belonging. I think it's a brilliant read on this stuff. So you have options, don't you? You have a conversation with them individually or in front of the group. You have a hold the mirror of conversation, where actually, or you provide them with feedback. And it might not be me that has that conversation. Sometimes you might just reward the other people who are doing stuff well. So all of these are options to you. I would rarely. So it did happen to me the other day where there was a lad in a session, and he was like, and I did, and I don't know, like I had tried a couple of times, and I was, in the end, I just said, I think I would listen, because one of the other girls was talking, and he was like talking. I think we would all listen if you were talking. And then just stayed quiet for about 10 seconds. And they didn't do it again, but he did contribute. But again, it's options, isn't it? With coaches. So I wonder whether people were with that question, like what was the intent behind that question? But often I'll go to coach development things, and you can immediately spot in rugby the coaches that are like, think they know it all. Like they're usually like men, quite frankly. They're usually older, and they're usually quite like bigger. So if you're a forward in rugby, like you have these assumptions that you know everything. And I'll probably try and do something really quickly that makes them realize they don't. Like, cool, everyone, like, look off the ball, put your hand up once you looked at the ball. Cool, and then I might go to that person, okay, were you aware that you'd like, there's this whole part of the game you're not coaching? And of course I could do that in front of them, or I could do that in front of the group, or I could do it individually. So I just think it's options. One option is a blunt instrument. And again, lots of the stuff comes back to, and go back to one of those first slides around clarity. Like lots of the stuff that goes on, my son's in a rugby club, and I think they could be better. But there is no clarity. So there's no like, so I had an opposition coach abuse my son a couple of years ago, and my wife tried to stop the game. I wasn't there. And for my wife to try and stop the game is mind-blowing, quite frankly. And then I was like, and one of the coaches said to me, well, it's character building, isn't it? And I was like, yeah, I actually don't think it is. But of course, there's nothing in the club rules or anything that we can have a conversation about, because you think this and I think that. So I do think real clarity from a club can help with lots of this stuff. I would also, like, if I was in, the other thing that we have issues around over here is like transition, especially from juniors to seniors. So having more clarity around that and how you could how this would be the best transition experience ever would be helpful. But that's just another tangent, sorry.
You're fine. Top class. I know that kind of there's so much that we can kind of delve into, and one of them that I want to kind of go into in terms of what you talked about earlier on. So you talked about, and go back to the rule breaker and be a disruptor. And kind of how you gain different insights. And I know obviously you mentioned Gary Klein's book and his other one, seeing what others don't, in terms of how we get insights and how we see things and how we kind of notice things. And I know obviously some people that we know would go heavily into that. But just in terms of your own context, and again, you're way rusty, similar to what I asked Martin. So we know that you're very comfortable in the chaos, same as me. But was there a catalyst when you were younger, or as a young coach, that made you think, oh, I like this challenge, I like what it brings me in terms of my own learning? Was there a catalyst that made you think, yeah, here's where I want to be?
Good question. Appreciate it. I mean, you're a product of your environment, aren't you? I played sevens, which is like less players on the pitch. You have to be more skillful, probably gives you more freedom, has less structure. And I had really good coaches when I was young. And then I had coaches that told me, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. They shamed me in meetings. They shamed me once in the paper. I wasn't that comfortable with that. I didn't enjoy it. And then I just kind of, I mean, who's influenced me the most is the players. Like when are they most alive? So interestingly, I did a session the other day, and that girl, Anna, like it was at they were coaching students, and the football guys did start off the session. They put people into two queues, and if you missed the goal, you went and sat down. So Anna was sat down 5 seconds in, so she just laid down. No one noticed she was laid down, and she laid there for about 6 minutes. And like I learn most from the players. Like, I'm definitely curious as to why Anna's sitting down and what would change it, and what's the best part of the training, what's the bit you love the most. But also, I know that has impact upon like them playing really well. But I'm not just saying, so people will go, oh, the game is the teacher. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that like a really well-designed game, probably with levels, Louise and Emma, and then with really good coaching. Why am I doing this? Why is my feedback like this? I'm going to replay this. Just going to freeze this for a second. We'll create skillful, adaptable players. Chaos is quite a freaky word for people. I would just call it dynamic. But of course, the other thing I am probably like become more accustomed to is singing karaoke more often. So I can't sing to save my life, but like I will step forward to give myself. And there's two moments I was thinking about. One is on my level 4, 2011. I'd been coaching for 5 years. And they said, oh, in half an hour, you're going to go and coach England girls netball. What? Sorry? I'm not coaching England girls netball. Like, you must be mistaking me with someone else. Like, I haven't got a clue what to do. Like, but I did. And like, I would, and it felt terrible. I can remember it. It was awful. But again, like, how do you get better? You have lots of karaoke moments. And the other one was when I applied for my job with England. I was a forwards coach. It was a backs job. The politics of the school had broken me. So I applied for it. It was about one of 84 people. The only one of 84 who was a forward to apply for it. I remember John Fletcher, who's a good friend of mine now, saying, oh, do you think you could coach Owen Farrell and the next Owen Farrell or the next George Ford? And I remember my voice said yes, and my brain was going, there's no chance I could do that. Like, there is literally no chance. And we had a guy yesterday, we do this business stuff, and a guy from York, Steve, and he was amazing on the Zoom. And at the end of the Zoom, he just said, like, thanks. He said, I'm exhausted. I set myself for the challenge of being like the best person on this Zoom. I know I haven't been, and I know I can be quite introverted, but I really wanted to engage today. I need to go to bed now. And again, I was like, fair play, Steve. Like you've just moved yourself to another bus stop, haven't you? And it's an option. You don't have to do that all the time, Steve. Like, I definitely want people to be themselves and be authentic. But like, you've created another option, and it is exhausting. So the one thing, and you would see this, Owen, I'm sure everyone else would, like, when you're working with other people and being responsive and like you care for them, and like it's the stuff that gives you energy. It's also really tiring. So go back to the start, like skill and looking after yourself. Like, they're pretty important things for coaches.
Top class, Rusty. Laura, do you want to ask Eamon's question?
Yeah. So based on your experience, how do you see coaching in 5 years, and what are coaches getting wrong?
No, man.
That could be a bit of a two-pronged question. So coaches, but also in terms of the multiple NGBs that you work with and have worked with, where do you see the improvements that could be made, or what needs to be added in to get that, again, environment and player and coach enhancement of that environment more to the fore, or is it enough to the fore as it is?
So I'm just writing stuff down as you speak.
Okay.
There's some cool stuff going on, isn't there? Like, I think people are becoming more enlightened, and some NGBs are definitely investing more in things. So I work with GB Hockey, and we've invested heavily in coach development. It's really helpful. Like, we are inundated with trying to help people. They really want to be helped. Again, you look at Tasman Rugby, they've got a players advisory board. So I think people are going to listen to the people who are experiencing it a lot more than they possibly previously had. I think coach development is going to be the next big thing. If you're like me and you're a journeyman player, then maybe like coach development's a good niche to be in. And again, you're like Ponzi scheming it, aren't you? You're impacting way more kids.
Yeah.
It's huge impact. I think it's people on the ground. Something I would challenge a couple of the NGBs over here on is, as soon as COVID hits, the first people they cut were the most important people. So it's actually, say, I wouldn't go and watch someone and have my clipboard and go, right, or I wouldn't want someone to watch me. I would go, well, let's go coach. Like, let's just get on the pitch together and like, let's talk through some stuff and work it out. The other thing I wrote was, hockey's got really good messaging. We just done our latest kind of talent system framework. What our goal is that the people own it, is that it's theirs. And so we need to help them translate it. and bring it to life on the pitch. And the last thing I wrote was menu of learning. So again, like it looks like you're already doing that, but with hockey we were brave. We've gone for a menu of learning, and starters might be like, a goalkeeping session, or a dessert might be, reflection with Brendan Cropley. So we've probably created more around what people need, more options, definitely more applied. We've been really, and I think lockdowns helped this. Like, I feel like I've had impact with lots of coaches. So the Kiwi coaches I'm on their shared huddle drive, and like they just video mic themselves all the time. I got videos of meetings with coaches mic'd up. So the other thing we're trying to do with the ACP is like the very first interaction between coach and coach developer is them to us. This is where I think I am. This is my IDP. Here's a session of me like mic'd up. So I think we're trying to be just like, that's an option we're probably trying to do more of, just because it grows awareness, doesn't it? Like, I've had a couple of, I had a really powerful interaction with a hockey coach over Christmas. There'd probably been 18 months of like hard labor. And then when he finally videoed himself, there's a tough looking in the mirror.
Yeah, I know. And that's the biggest one when you've been.
But it's not wrong. So sorry, and I do get the question. It's not wrong. It's like what he currently knows. Yeah. And we've all been there. Like we all started off with focusing probably more on the action, so the X's and the O's, than the interaction. And we probably all started focusing on the ball rather than off the ball. So I would have been doing a relatively controlled practice where I'm probably looking majority of people on the ball. And now I'm probably a bit more comfortable with it being a bit more dynamic. And of course that's not like you don't navigate that journey necessarily that well, because and I go back to what Martin was talking about at the start, like I've had unbelievable mentors, unbelievable. And I also don't think we have a time like this where there's WhatsApp groups or the ability to jump online, or like, I'm sure that at the end of this conference, if anyone, you could form a WhatsApp group. You could, someone could say, look, anyone fancy being on a WhatsApp group off the back of this? And then, put your digits in. So I just did a session at Arsenal last Friday. And at the end, I was like, cool, like who's setting up the WhatsApp group? We're cool. And anyone that's in the WhatsApp group, we're all going to agree to do an experiment for a month. So I'm doing Assassins. So Assassins is my experiment for the next month. And we're just bouncing ideas around on the WhatsApp group with each other. There was never a time when that existed when I was learning to coach.
Yeah, and that's something that again is in WhatsApp groups that we're involved in. We've done it with our award 2 coaches. Again, just creating that community of practice. I love one of the things that you kind of talked about there that's going to come up later on. I know in Jared's is you talked about the X and O's, and that's what his is beyond the X and O's, and that decision-making process, and rather than focusing on the actual activity, focusing on what's happening behind it, and the what you discussed earlier on in terms of listen if they're talking, so listen to them no matter what happens, no matter what they're thinking. You might get to know them much better, which is then going to help you as a coach come back to their wants and needs as well.
I was really frustrated yesterday. I went for a walk with a coach, and I know a kid who's in the program that he works in, and his mum's alcoholic, and he's like having a really tough time. And I said to the coach, I said, mate, like we probably know 10 kids in that program that have got similar. Like, why don't you write a list of that stuff and ask the coaches which kids this is? Because they do not know. 100% they do not know. And again, and I don't want to be too extreme, but my son's school, they have a girl committed suicide 2 weeks ago. Like, it's mind-blowing. I think sport can save that. I think sport can help people belong. I think it's like one of the most important things. And in other countries of the world, instead of putting people in prison, they connect them with a sports club to kind of get, to get the right people around them, like to look after them. And again, sorry, I'm just going one more thing. Community of practice. I do community of practice with the Western Australian Institute of Sport. Every month we do it. Every month I'm thinking, oh my God, how are we going to do 2 hours? And there's only 5 of us. And we all talk about what are we most proud of and what's our biggest problem. And we always go over 2 hours.
Class.
It's simple. Like, people need the answers to their problems now. So there is the other thing with the coach development is we're just trying to be much more just in time, just for me. So we don't want to give you something you're going to need in 12 months because you may not get there, quite frankly.
And I love that. That's kind of wrap things up nicely in terms of end, because you've started. You started how you've ended, because you've talked about that 2 hours is checking in on each other. What you brought up at the start. Absolutely love that. So Russell, there's 3 questions left. Donald, Darren, Adi. Apologies, folks. We're going to break for lunch, so those questions again will be sent in your email addresses with all the presenters. And if you want to ask that question to them specifically, you can. We're going to break for lunch. After lunch, we have Barnaby Sergeant Medics and Jared Jones finishing the things off. So, folks, we're going to come back on again. You can more or less, you can stay on here if you want and come back in later on. But we'll be back on starting at 1:10. Russell, as always, buddy, thank you so much, and we'll see everybody after lunch. Thanks, folks.
Thanks for having me. Great singing, Laura. Well done. I thought you were going to have the voice of an angel, to be honest. I thought.
You didn't get
What about me?
I imagine you'd be good. Owen, less so.